So soon you guys will be getting your schedules in GradeBook and you will see your class list. So there's some things that I'm just going to go through. They're little tips. You might know some of these, you might not. Um, some of them are helpful. Some of you will use, others you won't use, depending on what grade levels you teach. This is more of a high school teacher. So it's a demo teacher. So if you are elementary, some of these settings might not be feasible for you. So I'm looking at my gradebook and I have my classes in there. So as I'm looking at this, I have my classes listed here. So just a few tips on how this is organized when you get your classes in here. So first, they are automatically alphabetized alphabetically. So as I'm looking at my classes, you can see my algebra classes listed first, where my world histories are listed at the bottom. So first is going to go alphabetically. Then secondly, it's going to go by your section numbers. So you can see I have 4 different sections of history. And a lot of teachers like to go in and rename, and that's perfect. So just one tip with renaming. So I'm going to click on my edit list. That allows me to rename or give them class aliases. But a lot of people don't realize that there's this order here. The order allows you to put these classes in the order, say that you're teaching it, first period, second period, third period, and so forth. These section numbers have nothing to do with the period that they're being taught, because hopefully nobody is teaching 44 periods a day. So that's just a section number that is given during scheduling. So the tip that I want to share with you is how to order. So it will automatically order blank spaces first and then numerical. So for example, if I teach algebra first period and I want this to stay first period, if I put in a number 1 and hit save, you will notice that my order changes. So now everything else is listed alphabetically. All my blanks are first, and then my algebra class is next. So how do you fix that? So anything that you definitely want on the bottom of your list, I always suggest a higher number. You're not going to have 99 classes on your class lists. So if something you definitely want at the bottom, put 99, and then everything else will be alphabetized until it is given a number. So if I need this one first, this one's my second period class, this is my third period class, and this is my fourth period class. Once I hit save, you'll see that my algebra will stay at the bottom, and then those are going to be rearranged based on the number order that I gave. So again, the tip is when you're ordering, any blanks are blanks are alphabetized first, and then it goes in numerical order. So, and I'm just going to clear these out. Just so they're back alphabetically. And again, you can save it, or you can rename them as you need to if you want period 1, period 2, etc. So back in my grade book, I'm going to look at some of my settings. So over on the right-hand side, I have what's called administration. So there's a lot of things in here, and a lot of these things are not going to work right now because we're not in the process of using our grade book. We don't have our class lists, we don't have active grades, and so forth. Once we start going throughout the year, on the progress book login page, I always put, did you know? They're usually green blurbs, and I put little tips on there on things such as how to group classes together or exclude marks, things like that. So you'll see those throughout the year, just tips on how to use these, because like I said, at the beginning of the year, a lot of these things we can't use because we don't have active information in our grade books yet. But our preferences we can set at the beginning of the year. So setting up teacher preferences. So I'm going to click on that. So as I'm looking at this, a lot of this is not going to apply to me. But there's a few things that you want to make sure that you are including. And this does have to be set every year. So as well as making sure your email's up to date, things like that, your assignment types, those don't carry on from year to year. So the first thing that you probably want to make sure that you have is post marks to the web. So this is what takes each of your assignments and posts them on the web to parent access. So if I choose this here and hit save, this is going to apply to my algebra class. Okay, so that means every assignment that I make in my algebra class, it's automatically going to go to parent access. So, and I've made suggestions before, especially with my new teacher orientations. My suggestion is do an all or nothing. Um, so when you do an all or nothing, what that means is you want to post every assignment to the web or don't post anything, because you will have those parents that will sit there and count and try to average to see if it's averaging correctly and so forth. Well, if you only post 10 out of 15 assignments, the percentage is going to be off and parents are going to be calling the office. So typically it's better to post everything so parents can see what is going on. So with this preset here, this is going to allow every assignment to create to automatically be posted without me having to check it each assignment that I make. If I want that for all my classes, once I have hit save for my algebra, then I can come down here and I can copy it to all my other classes. And then I just hit copy. And then it'll be saved to all those other classes. So add this assignment to the assignment bank is on by default. That just means your assignments get added into a list, and I'm going to show you how you can reuse those over and over. So if every year, if you do the same project, if you do, a country project or something that it's built into your curriculum and it's repeated, then you can pull this assignment into your gradebook without having to retype everything. And again, this is on by default. You can leave it on. The other thing that we'll talk about today is the homework webpage. A lot of teachers don't use this, but this can be helpful. It could be used two different ways. It could be used to kind of like to foresee what is going on, to schedule things ahead of time, or it can be used while you're creating your assignments. If you create all your assignments on Monday, then the students can see the assignment as a whole. So that is up to you for this one if you would want that one on. And like I said, I will show you how the homework web page works. These next two boxes, quiz option and discussion option, these are for virtual classroom. And I do know some of our districts are going towards virtual classroom. So if you are a district that is going that route, I know Southeast, I know Northwestern is looking into it, and a few other districts. So you might want to come back and revisit this page at some point in time. To see what options are available for your quizzes, such as maybe you always want the questions scrambled, and discussion options. So maybe you want to say require approval. So that discussion options, when students reply, you have to approve it before it's posted and other students can see it. Okay, so those are those two. So again, the biggest one that you want to apply is postmarks to the web, and make sure you save it for all of your classes. So the next thing that I want to look at that most people don't even know is here is setting up your classes for parent access. So once I click on set up for parent access, you're going to see each of your classes listed. So these are the classes that are given by scheduling, so you can't really change those. But what you can do is add a class logo, like I did here for my algebra class. And then there's some options that you can remove from parent access. So maybe you're working with elementary kids and you want the parents to see what assignments are going on, but you don't want them to see their overall letter grade. You can check it and it will say, don't show the letter grade. Same with student averages. Maybe you want them to see the letter grade, but you don't want them to see the average, to see, if it's a 91.26%, you can remove that from this class to show on parent access. The other option that you can remove is assignment comments. So maybe you use those assignment comments for a different reason versus communication with your parents. Maybe you put notes in there, completed 3 out of 5 questions, or maybe you put little notes, need to work on um, complete sentences and capitalization. So if you don't want parents to see that, you can turn off so you cannot see assignment comments. And again, each class is separate. If you want to upload an image, it gives you the image size, as well as when you click on the upload, it will tell you what format it needs to be in. So a JPEG or PNG are your comments. So if you find something on the web or create a little logo, you can upload it from here. And it will upload right from your computer, so not from Drive. Any changes that you make sure you save your changes, and then this will be visible on Parent Access. And we'll get into Parent Access in a little bit, and we'll talk about all those things that you can see. So I'm going to go back into my gradebook. And we're going to look at 2 different things here. There is something called groups within classes, and then there's grouping classes together. These are confusing to a lot of people. So the first one that we're going to look at is groups within classes. The reason why I want to stress between these 2 of these is we might be working with kids at home and we might be working with kids at school this year. So we want to know who's who. Maybe there's different assignments for them. Maybe they scheduled them differently in 2 different classes. So what can we do with these kids that are different groups of kids? So the first one that we're going to look at is creating groups within classes. So a lot of times in the past, this was used for maybe your gifted kids, maybe reading levels, or any of your IEP students. So they could be grouped so you can give them different assignments than everybody else. So how does this work? So I'm going to just look at my algebra class. So in the top left, I'm going to select a class. I'm going to pick algebra. So within my algebra class, I'm going to create a group. So I'm going to click where it says add a group. And we are going to create, this is going to be called my online students. And I'm just going to give it a little description for myself. The description is for you. So I'm going to do that. And I want to say, okay, so by default, it defaults to the actual classes. Well, I'm not grouping the entire class. So I'm going to say show students. So now you can see that it breaks it down. So I'm going to say, okay, Valerie is in this class. Tom is in, Valerie's in this class. Tom is in this class, or in this group, I should say, and April is in this group. So those are my online learners. So now once I hit update, you can see that I have a group over here called online students. So what does this do? So let's go back. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And I'm sure most of you, not all of you, because some of you are standards based, but we're going to create an assignment. So within that assignment, I'm going to add my assignment here. I'm just going to call this groups of students so you can see. And I'm in just 10 points. Now you can see right here, it says assign to a student group. By default, it automatically assigns to all students because typically that's what we do. All students get the same assignment and you're going to grade it, that way. However, maybe because my online students are doing something different, this assignment is just going to go to that group of students. So now once I click online students, okay, and notice my postmarks to the web was automatically checked because I put that in my preferences. Now I'm going to hit save. So to you, it doesn't look like it did anything different. So on the main tab, it looks exactly as it would for another assignment. However, when we switch to our Marks tab, it will automatically exclude any student that was not in that group. So notice it only allows me to put marks in for those students that were in the group. It automatically excludes those other students. So it's just a way for you to quickly exclude students without having to go through all the other ones. But then notice here, so maybe Barbie started the school year in class, but this assignment she was doing online because the family was quarantining. So while they're in quarantine, she's learning online. So now I need Barbie to have this assignment. So notice it just says add to the student or assign to the student. So I click on that and notice it opens it up for me to assign it to that one student. So that's what grouping does. It allows you to set up those groups within your classes. So maybe you have 3 different reading levels in your class. You can have, level 1, level 2, and level 3. And as you're creating assignments, it would just assign it to those students. Now it's excluding it for those students. So also those students, it's not going to show on parent access. So that's also a helpful thing to see that it's being excluded from that student. So again, that one was called setup groups within classes. So those are within the one class that you have. The next thing that we're going to look at is grouping classes together. So this is different. So now maybe when they did scheduling, maybe they scheduled your first period class and then you have your online students for first period. So you might see them twice in your list, but you're teaching them the same thing and you're always taking attendance with the same roster and assigning them the same assignments. So you might want to group them together. So once I click on group classes together, you'll see no groups have been found yet. I'm going to add a group. So once I click on add a group, it's going to ask me, what do I want to call this? I'm going to call this combined world history. Okay. And then it allows me to select which classes that I want to include. So I'm going to select, so maybe this is my, let's do 4 and 44. So 4 is my in-class students and 44 are my online students. So now I'm going to update this. So once I click on update, you will see back in my gradebook, I now have an additional class listed. Hold on, let me go back there. Oh, it's not going to let me. Let's see if it'll let these two. Okay, so the demo doesn't have it set up so I can group them together. But so what it would do is it would allow me to group them together. The name is going to populate on the side. Okay, so and notice it's saying that you must have the same assignment types. Okay, so that it has to have that common thing so I can give the same assignment. So, if you're breaking it down into, classwork, homework, tests, they both have to have those in order to assign assignment. Then what will happen is when I go back into my gradebook, I will have an additional class listed here. So it would be my combined world history. And then what I could do is edit my class and hide the 2 classes that were combined. So if it was 4 and 44, I can hide those. It will not allow you to hide a grouped class. Okay, so again, it will not allow you to hide a grouped class. If you want to get rid of the grouping, you would come back to group classes together and you would click on the class, and in the upper right corner, it will say delete this group. Okay, so again, depending on what your class list looks like, you might not need this, or you might if you're trying to combine those groups of kids together. Okay, any questions so far? Is there, wait, I see a few. Great. So, Michelle, that's a great question. So it's all based on how the students are going to be scheduled. So that's why I'm trying to focus on some of these extra things that we don't typically use, because you might have to tweak your grade book to set it up so it's easier for you for grading. Because I don't know if your district is going to just put all kids in one classroom and say, hey, these are the kids that are online, these are the kids that are in class, but you have one class list. Some districts might separate them out and say, hey, here's your English class, but these kids are online, and this section 2 are the kids that are in person. So you might want to group those together. So it all depends on scheduling and how that they are scheduled. And you can't change any of that, but you can do some of these options to kind of make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, good question, Paul. That's a great question. If you lose posted grades, if you end up deleting the group, no, because even though you're deleting the group, those records are associated with the original classes. So if I group together World History 4 and 44, but I remove the group, those assignments go with those individual classes. So it's almost like creating an assignment for your, and that's why it didn't work, because no assignment types were made. It's almost like, oh, and see, I could group these two together. See how it says Algebra 1 up here and then World History at the bottom? Because they share the same assignment types. So if I created a group, I can use those. So it's almost the same thing as putting the check mark here as creating the group, because then if I decide not to share this assignment anymore with my Algebra 2 class or World History class, it's not removing any of the students' scores. It's just removing that share setting. Yes, it would just look like a huge class, and it would be all alphabetical. So that's why sometimes people want them grouped together, because when they're doing assignments, things like that, and you have that mix of kids, instead of going into two different classes, they combine them all in one, so they're all listed alphabetically. Now, also remember, and I'm going to go into my dashboard for my individual class. Also remember that not only can you order your class list, you can also order your roster. So just because it is sorted alphabetically, maybe you want your online kids listed last. So I want Valerie, then I want Tom, then I want April. So remember, it's going to order my blanks first alphabetically and then any of my numbers. So now it just took and rearranged my online kids that I grouped. So I made my group within, and I have those alphabetized at the end of my list. So maybe I'm giving an assignment and I want all my in-person students first, then my online students. This is also a place, and again, I just went into update roster. This is also a place. We were talking about Barbie earlier. She's now in quarantine. She's part of my online group. So I can come here and say, now she's a part of my online students. I can save it, and she has become a part of that group. So you can always go back to set up groups within classes, or you can add groups. I shouldn't say you can add groups. You can add students to a group that has been created from your class roster screen. And I think I missed part of Paul's question, so I just want to make sure okay, I did answer that. So yes, it goes to the individual section. So yes, as you're removing the groups and stuff like that, you're not going to have any issues. Okay, if you have them grouped, can you go into an individual class and assign that group something? Okay, so now, Michelle, you're getting a little tricky here. So, so if I had my two classes grouped together, so let me go back to my grade book. And you know what, I can go, since I can see which two I can group together. let me group my classes together. So I'll go through this whole process. Add a group. I'll just call it combined, and I can combine world history and algebra, which is an odd combination, but we'll do that. Eh, it still doesn't let me because I'm in as a master. So once those two are grouped together, you're going to have a full list. So anytime, and you can see up here, here's that delete group. So anytime you create an assignment, so pretend I have my combined class here. When I create my assignment, it is going to automatically create it to both of those sections. Okay. But if I just want it for algebra and not world history, I would have to set up groups within those individual classes, so then I can only assign it to those kids, if that makes sense. So you grouped you grouped the classes together, then within each of the individual classes you would have to set up a group to assign assignments just to specific kids. So that gets a little bit tricky, but it can be done. And always, and never forget, and let me just go to an assignment that's already created. Never forget that even though you created a class, remember you can always exclude that one specific student. So, and I'm just on the marks tab, but you can also do this from the grid. If I right click on it, I can say exclude, or I can say exclude and post. So the difference between those: exclude, parents are not going to see those on parent access. Exclude and post, parents will see it with an E next to it so that they know that it's excluded from the average. So that's the difference between the two. But so say you grouped two classes together, you have your big long list, but maybe 5 of the kids are not going to be doing that assignment. Just because those are your online kids, just right click on them and say exclude. Okay. I think I got all those questions answered. Any other questions with grouping? And we will probably, I don't have any tip sheets right now for this. We're kind of waiting to see how the start of school goes, but we will be refreshing everyone's memory on this as school gets started, and as people are starting to get their schedules and so forth in their grade book. Okay, I am going to go into my dashboard for my Algebra 2 class, and we're going to look at some of the individual things that I can do with my individual class. So one of the things that I want to point out is there's something here called try the new seating chart. I would suggest using this versus the old seating chart if you are creating seating charts within Progress Book. The reason why is they are eventually going to get rid of the old. I think this is the last year for it. So get comfortable using the new. It's very simple to use. I actually like it. Very user friendly. The other one, the old seating chart, it was nice and it worked well. It just had a lot of buttons that you weren't sure what they did. So the new seating chart is very simplified. So if I click on try new seating chart, you can see I already have a seating chart created, but I am going to see if I can delete this and we'll start from scratch. Okay, so now I have my Algebra 1 class. You can see several of the new features that it is offering in the new seating chart. You have this big box here that says add a new seating chart, or you have this plus up at the corner. So either one is going to allow you to create your new chart. So I'm just going to click on the plus. Going to ask you what your seating chart name is. So I'm going to say this is period 1 algebra. Algebra 2. Any comments that you would want printed, you know, when you print these out, if you were going to print these out, would show right here. And then the desk size and color. So this is what your desk is going to look like. If you are a color-coded person and, you know, first period is always blue, you can change your desks to blue. Same with your font color. You can change your font color if needed. So a few options that you can add to the desk. Do you want comments? So what it's going to do is be blank until you add a comment to that student. But I would suggest turning this on. So if you do want to add comments, such as if you have a student with a peanut allergy or anything like that, you can put that on your seating chart. You can add the student pictures. So again, those are brought in from student information. So that's a nice feature to have, especially if there's going to be a sub in the building. And then daily attendance. This will show whatever has been marked by the office for your daily attendance for that student. It will not show period attendance on here if they're absent from your class at that point in time. Then down here is your attendance options. If you want to take attendance through the seating chart, you have the ability to take the daily attendance or period attendance. So basically for our elementary, most of the time you don't take period attendance. You might take daily attendance, would be your homeroom attendance. And if you want to do that from the seating chart, you could allow that. I'm going to click on save, and it's going to ask me a few questions. How do I want my desks to be arranged? Okay, so I'm just going to say, okay, looking at my classroom, I have 4 columns of desks. So I'm going to choose by column, and I have 4. Or you can say by rows. So, if you're 5 deep, you can do it that way. How do I want them ordered? So I can pick, traditionally we do alphabetizing, especially in the elementary school. If we want to just randomize it, we can pick random. So you have several different options here how it is arranged. So I'm just going to do alphabetically, and I'm going to go vertical. So it goes top down through the column. It is going to tell me how many students that I have. So there are 10 students that are going to be added to the seating chart. So you can always add later on if you get a move-in student. So if I say arrange desks, it automatically puts them. So you can see it puts them here. It arranges them. It did not arrange them A to Z vertically. Oh, it did. Did it? Yes. Okay. So now what I do is when I have these, I can add additional things. So I can lock it so nothing can be moved. I can move any of these that need to be. So maybe this seat needs to be over here because I have openings. Maybe I need to add a teacher desk. So I can add a desk. It will ask you for a student if I need to pick an individual student. Oops. Or I can insert a comment if I need to. If it's my desk, I can just leave it blank. So if I want to add, maybe this is yellow, it's going to be a yellow desk. I'm going to save it. It looks like it took away one of your students, but it doesn't. It just automatically puts it in the upper left corner. I just need to move it. So now here's my teacher desk, and I can add a label to it and say teacher desk. And save. Same thing, it's automatically going to put it in the upper right corner, and I can move that on top of my desk. So I can click on the arrange. That's going to bring this back up. So if I need to change, and also notice right here, it says 0 students are found to be added. So I don't have any new students to my classroom, but if I did have a new student, it's going to appear and I can add that new student. So anytime that I want to make any modifications, I can click on the little gear. It's going to bring me back so I can rename it, maybe change the desk size and so forth. So when I leave my seating chart, if I come back here and go back into my seating chart, now you're going to see it. Any of your pictures are going to display. If any of my students were absent, that is going to display in the bottom right corner. I can show any comments that my students have, and I can also print from here. So I have multiple options once my seating chart has been created. Any questions with seating? Can you rotate? Um, I don't think so in this one. I know you can resize, but I don't think it'll allow you to rotate. It does not. So semicircles. So I'm assuming with semicircles, you have multiple people at one table. So you might just have to kind of overlap them. You're gonna, or you can make them smaller. Um, so I would have to go back into my, oops, close my, if I go back into my edit, I can change the size here, and that's the smallest it'll let you go. But you can see if your desks are all really big, you can resize them here. And when I hit save, you can see it automatically resizes those. But no, I don't see any way to rotate. And your images will automatically populate whatever is in the student profile of student information. So as those update, as those get loaded for the new school year, you will see your pictures will automatically update as well. Any other questions with uh, the seating charts? So again, that is for your individual classes. You can do it here, but if you go into the individual class, click on try new seating chart and it'll walk you through the steps. Okay. Another feature that I want to show you is importing assignments. So when I import assignments, I'm going to go into my Algebra 1 class and I have all of my assignments listed, but I have the ability to import an assignment. So as you guys have been in some of your districts for a long period of time, this list is going to be really long. Okay, so for me in this demo, it's not long at all, but I'm going to click on import assignment. And you're going to see any assignments that have been created for this class. Okay, so you can see Algebra 2, I've had these previous assignments created. So as long as when they're scheduling every year, if they reschedule the Algebra 2, it has the same course number, it's going to generate this list. I use this a lot when I was in the classroom, and that was, I can't believe it, but this is my 8th year out of the classroom. But I used this a lot to see when I taught it. I didn't always necessarily have to import it again, but I always like to see when I taught it the previous year to see if I was on track because I taught semester classes. So I had to make sure I got through everything for the semester. So this helped me. So you're going to see what the assignment is called, how many points it was, and when you taught this class. So if this groups of students, if I wanted to reteach this, okay, so it's the following year, I want to use this again. I'm just going to put the due date here. So where it says date, this is your due date. So I'm just going to put that it is due on 6/5/2020. Now when I click on import assignment, it doesn't look like it has done anything, but when I am in my 4th reporting period, you're going to see it created this assignment called groups of students. So it types everything out for me. So you can see it's ready for my scoring. But if I go to my main tab, if there's anything I need to modify, I can modify. Maybe this year, instead of it being out of 10 points, maybe I realized 2 of the questions were harder, so I'm going to make it 12 points. I could do that. Because I was importing, it does not take your preferences as well. So just be aware of that. So I would have to check postmarks to the web, and then I would hit save. So even though I'm importing it and I want most of the information, it still allows me to tweak it and modify it if I need to make changes for the new school year. Okay, so that is importing. So again, your list is going to be a lot longer than mine just because this is the demo database. But you're going to see things from years and years ago if you continue to teach the same class. So again, import the assignments. and then you would just type in the due date that you want to use this. So you're asking, well, what's this little download button over here? You can use that as well. It just is a little bit different. So if I click on that, instead of automatically creating the assignment and putting it in your assignment window, it will bring up the edit screen. So if you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do this pre-assessment again. It was very good, but this year it's not 15 points. It's going to be 14 points. So instead of typing in the due date, I can just click on this little download and it imports it and it brings it up so that I can retype it. And okay. So again, so if I put in the due date, it's automatically going to put it in. If I use this, it lets you modify the description. Okay, next, and this is a big chunk of communication with your parents, is parent access. So we know that our parents are on parent access quite often. So we want to provide as much information on there as we can. Yes, a lot of us use Google Classroom. Maybe some of our parents have, we've signed them up for the Guardian summaries. So once a week they get a summary from Google. So, you know, they can see what is up and coming. However, the class information page also allows you to provide information for your parents. So I'm going to look here and I'm in my individual classroom for Algebra 2 and I have something that says post-class information. So once I do that, the first thing that you're going to see is a blank screen. I already have information in here. So what this does is it allows you to create a page, basically like a mini web page within Progress Book or Parent Access. So you can see it says welcome. I said resources are going to be available. And notice I have this Google Calendar in here. This Google Calendar came from my Google Classroom. So just because I have a Google Calendar and my students can see it, my parents still cannot because I haven't granted them access to it. So this is a way that you can provide information for your students, or for your students' parents, so they can see what is up and coming in Google Classroom or in your class. So I will show you that. That's going to be the lengthiest process of this. But once I hit save, then it allows me to add some additional things, such as links and attachments. So links would be anything that is web-based. So you can see in here, I put in the Think Central login screen. So maybe my kids use Think Central for math. So now this is going to be available in Parent Access. I can also put it in Google Classroom or whatever platform I am using. I can add additional ones. So I would just do a number 2. And if I wanted Google for students, and then I can put the website. And then it would have that as well. The other one are my attachments. So your attachments are anything that is not web-based. So if you have something saved on your desktop, maybe a Word document, PowerPoint, anything like that, you can attach that here. So for example, I have a class syllabus that is, it's a PDF. So I can view my attachment. It's really not a syllabus, but you can see it's a PDF. So the parents have access to that. You will not see this until you have saved. Okay. So, and you'll notice that each time it will tell you, it says, then click the save button. Then it will allow you to upload the attachment. Same with your links. You have to save it and then add your links to it. So let's see what this looks like. Let's break it down and how we can get this information on there. So from my Algebra 2 spot, class, I am going to click on View Parent Access Website. And I'm going to switch students because I switched the order. So all my information is on Valerie. So some things that I can look at. So you're going to see here in your planner, all of these are going to have something called view class information. So in view class information for my Algebra 2, it's going to take me right into that class information page that I also see over here on the side. So if I click on that, it's going to take me to my mini web page. So you can see it's going to give all of the scheduled information here. Algebra 2, Section 8, who the teacher is, what room it is, what period. Then here is in the white section the information that I have added as the teacher. So I added some text, I added my Google Calendar, and I added some resources over here. So here's my login. So my Think Central login and my Google Classroom, and then here's that syllabus that I showed you so a parent could look at that PDF. So again, that is available for every class. So if I click on class information, the students would come here and or parents, and they are going to see any that have this green highlight means that there is information listed on the class information page. If they are all gray, there is nothing listed. The only thing that they're going to see is the class name. If you remember back to the beginning of the class, I said set up parent access. You can add a logo. This is where that little logo shows up. So it's just tiny in the corner. If not, everybody says news, and it's a little newspaper. Okay. So let's look at, and I got to do a new screen share, but let's look at how we set up the calendar to get that on here. So I'm going to do a new screen share. I'm going to switch to my Google Classroom. So here in my Google Classroom, I see my calendar by going to my classwork tab, and I have my calendar here. But how do things get on the calendar from Google Classroom? When I create an assignment, we'll call this PB class information. I can add whatever I need to. The most important thing is it has to have a due date. If it does not have a due date, it does not publish on the classroom, the Google Classroom calendar. So I'm going to give it a due date for tomorrow. And then I'm going to click assign. So now that's assigned. So now me as the teacher, how do I get this information onto my class information page? So the easiest, you can go to your little Rubik's Cube and you can go to calendar, or you can click on the calendar from here. Either way. So once I'm in here, I'll see all my Google calendars listed. So here's my class that I want to look at. So I'm going to click on the three little dots next to it. And I'm going to go to my settings. So once I click on settings, there's a lot of things listed here, but we're going to go down to where it says share with specific people. So I'm going to click on that. So you're going to see that it's going to be shared with your sixth grade, well, in my case, the sixth grade math class, and it's also shared with the sixth grade math teachers. So that's great. So anybody in that Google Classroom can automatically see that. I know that my students can see it. They've been a part of my Google Classroom, but now I want parents to see this. So I'm going to scroll up just one level to where it says access permission, and I want to make sure I check make it available to the public. This allows my parents to see this. Okay. Now, how did I get it into my class information page in Progress Book? So now I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more. Everything is right here in my settings. There is something in here called embed code. So you don't have to worry about retyping this. It's automatically created for you. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to copy. So I have everything set. I made it public. I copied my embed code. Now I'm going to go back into my, I'm going to reshare. I'm going to go back to my dashboard and go to my class information page. So when I'm here, I'm going to erase this real quick. and you think you're like, oh my gosh, it's got HTML code. I'm not going to know what to do. It's very, very simple. So I have that copied. I want it to go right here. So if I just pasted this, it's going to look really funny. Okay, so I have to do one extra step before I paste it. Under Show More Tools, I'm going to click where it says Source. Inside the source, wherever I want it below where it says resources will be available. I'm going to hit Enter and hit Paste. And then I'm going to hit Save. And then you'll see it's going to bring up that calendar. So again, I just click on Show More Tools, Source, and find my text where I want it to go after. And the P's mean paragraph. So it's after this paragraph, I just click on a new line and then I would hit paste. And it's going to paste all this gobbledygook that we don't understand. It's going to paste all that information in there for you. And then once I hit save, it's going to turn it into my nice, neat calendar. Inside of my calendar, you can see I have this assignment that I just created that parents can also see, that it's due on June 30th and what it's called. And the more of a description you add to it, it's going to show there. Okay. Okay. Questions. So I see a couple in the chat. Can you just have one page for your homeroom? Yes. So let me go into, for your homeroom. Now you're making me think, Alicia. I will have to assign a homeroom to my students and see, but I'm not sure. I can't answer that. But when you go to post-class information, you'll see down at the bottom, it will show you all the classes that are available. If there's a homeroom available and it lets you, and again, there's not a homeroom assigned to this class, but it'll have an asterisk next to it, and that would be your homeroom class. So if you see that when you're scheduled a homeroom, then yes, you could apply it to that. But I'm not sure if you can. So at this point, I'm going to say no, but maybe. So the Kendra, the calendar will transfer from Classroom if I embed it like this. So as I am making assignments and putting due dates on them, this calendar is automatically going to update. And if I could go forward or backward month by month, so I can see things in the future, I can see things that were, due in the past. So I can go through this as needed. So it just depends on how many assignments that you are posting in your Google Calendar. Also remember that anything that does not have a due date does not show up on your Google Calendar, but you as the admin for the calendar, you can manually put in events on the calendar and parents will be able to see those. So if I put an event on the 6th grade math calendar for, let's get into August, say August 12th, and it's not an assignment, but maybe I said all forms are due to the office. They're going to see that. I can just make it an all-day event. It doesn't have to have a beginning or end time, but parents can see that if I put it on the 6th grade math calendar. Okay, so Melissa asked if parents are going to be able to see those assignments. If they know, so it automatically puts that link there here. That is part of the event. It automatically puts that link in there. You can put your own details in the calendar event if you want to provide information to the parents. Because remember, parents don't have a login for Classroom, so they can only get that summary once a week. Michelle made a comment, your homeroom is called administrative for your homeroom. Yes, as long as they link it if they link it to that administration class for your homeroom because it's a scheduled class as well as using it for homeroom attendance, it will work. But some districts, when they schedule homerooms, they don't actually have a class listed in their class list to take attendance. It's scheduled separately, and those are the ones that have the asterisk by it. So I'm thinking those are the ones that are not going to work. Okay, any other questions? And again, I know this was a lot of information. I didn't even think I was going to make it this long. I'm going to stop my screen share here.